Hello, everyone, and welcome back to TSRI. Today's topic is on neurodiversity. I'm Nydia Garcia and excited to talk to you today with our great topic. So before we get started, I'll go ahead and do a quick definition. And as we go through the presentation, we'll talk about what is neurodiversity. We'll talk about the benefits of it in appreciation of mental health. And then we'll also talk about how it can positively impact the workplace and also some treatment options for those who may think they might be neurodiverse. So, quick start with our definition. Neurodiversity is a term that describes people who have various mental functions. So it can encompass conditions such as ADHD, even giftedness, or those who might have different difficulties with speech or dyslexia, sight, sound. So a lot of different conditions. Some even have a condition called synesthesia. So they see, when they hear music, colors floating through the sky and musical notes floating through the air. I think that came out in an Avenger movie recently. But anyways, that is just one of the many forms of neurodiversity. So what is it exactly? Like I described, a few different options on what you'll see with neurodiversity is it can impact the sense of reading, being able to speak, the way our mind processes information, the way we communicate. Even our emotions can be neurodiverse because, of course, our emotions impact our thoughts, which impacts our mind and the way that we communicate and more. So something really interesting from this particular graphic is cultural diversity. What might be somewhat normative in one culture might be different in another. So again, when we're talking about neurodiversity, we're talking about one that's diverse or maybe a little bit different than what we would expect from the quote unquote norm. But as we get deeper into it, I mean, this graphic came from Ireland. This is a conversation that's going all around the world, and this circle keeps getting bigger and bigger with more bubbles added to it. And so what we're noticing is that I think we're going to end up finding out that all of us are neurodiverse in some shape or form. And so it's important to appreciate all of our differences and how our minds operate. So we'll see this over time. So how common is it? In current state, between 10 to 20% of the global population is considered neurodivergent. And this was per a research firm, auditing firm, Deloitte. And it just recognizes the fact that there are certain developmental normal variations in the brain, but also that these conditions can have different strengths. So speaking of those strengths, what are the benefits? Thing number one is if you have a neurodivergent individual on your team, that team can perform 30% better. Hello, do we have any entrepreneurs or business owners here in this place? Operations managers, anyone? Your team can perform better the more that we welcome these different types of neurodiversity onto our team. So as you can see, this particular circle has a few less bubbles than the previous circle. But what I liked about this particular one was the overlap. For anyone that knows me, I love Venn diagrams. So this is a whole series of Venn diagrams overlapping Venn diagrams. And what it shows in those areas of overlap are the benefits. So for example, dyslexia, dyscalculia, creativity, right there in the mix of it. And with dyslexia benefits, it showed that individuals with dyslexia are 84% above average with visual thinking, with creativity, and 3D mechanical skills. Come on, somebody, that's amazing. ADHD, what are the strengths of ADHD? Creativity, hyperfocus, energy, passion. So we have so many benefits of all of these different ways that our brain might be wired a little bit differently. And I really think it's just time that we know about these and we celebrate them in ourselves and in others. Quick story, just as an example of how this might show up, is I have worked in the music industry through on the spiritual side through faith-based organizations for some time. And I have a special friend of mine who happens to have dyslexia. It was so interesting because the other day, as this person we were actually doing a songwriting session together and really getting into that creative space. All of a sudden, as soon as we tapped in that creative space and really this nebulous creative cloud, boom, the words and the numbers on the page that he was looking at, the music that was written started swimming around, right? dyslexia. So it was so interesting to see how his neurodivergent brain was activated with that creative process into that dyslexia, as it did take up that same brain space. So once again, we could just go on and on about this all day long. I'd love to hear your examples of how your superpower, I think that word is used too much, superpower, I'll use the word strength, is maybe shown up in your neurodivergence. For me personally, it's also with giftedness. It's not represented on this circle, but it was on the other one. And with giftedness, individuals, they can be gifted, which can generally be associated with either a high IQ or leadership skills or communication skills. But did you know that gifted individuals have a higher tendency to have anxiety or even hypersensitivity, emotional sensitivity? So there's so many things and so many of these overlap, and it's just super interesting to know how to put words behind it, because hey, the more that we can describe these things, the more we can describe ourselves to others, have that self-awareness and awareness and empathy for others as well. So super fun as we continue learning about these topics. So last but not least, treatment options. For individuals who may think that they, their child, family member, whoever they're trying to help out and recommend, who do I go to? How do I get diagnosed? Or how do I even know where to turn for resources? Me personally, not a big fan of diagnoses. I mean, who wants to be labeled with things like this? However, I do think that diagnoses are helpful to at least put a label so that we can then arrive at treatment options. I think treatment options are super awesome. Again, being able to put a language behind ourselves, our symptoms that we may be experiencing, to express ourselves in the world and to others. So ultimately, the goal is to live our best version of ourselves, wellness, hope. I'm not alone. I mean, gosh, the epiphany with knowing that you are not alone and that God made you this way for a special purpose. Wow, that goes a long way. So to get your treatment started, you can reach out to a licensed professional counselor, psychologist, psychiatrist, a school-based treatment modality, or a counselor that can then create that referral, speech therapist, occupational therapist, neurologist, pediatrician, family practice, and more. So tell me what you think. I would love to hear your story. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching, and tell me how you liked this neurodivergent.